There's a kind of work that keeps the world running, and almost no one sees it. It doesn't show up neatly on a to-do list. It isn't always recognized. It often isn't paid. And when it is done well, it can look like nothing happened at all. The work is invisible labor. And once you start seeing it, you realize it's everywhere. It's the mother who notices the diaper supply is running low. The partner who remembers the pediatrician appointment. The person who keeps track of birthdays. The employee who quietly catches mistakes before they become problems. The friend who remembers to check in. The one who notices what needs to be done before anyone asks. Invisible labor is the work of holding a system together. And because it often happens inside the mind, it can be hard to explain. No one sees the dozens of tabs open in your brain. The grocery list, the meal planning, the sleep schedule, the mental inventory of what's almost out, the emotional calculation of who needs what, the constant anticipation, and that anticipation is work. Even when you're sitting still, even when it looks like you're doing nothing, this is one of the reasons motherhood can feel so exhausting. Not just because of the physical tasks, but because of the endless cognitive and emotional load. You are not only caring for your child, you are running a small, constantly changing ecosystem. And much of that work exists entirely in your mind. From a psychological perspective, invisible labor is taxing because the brain does not distinguish sharply between doing a task and holding responsibility for a task. If your mind is tracking unfinished items, those tasks continue to occupy mental space. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as cognitive load. Your body may be resting, but your brain is still working, still monitoring, still anticipating, still preparing for what comes next. And because this work is preventative, its success often looks like the absence of problems. Nothing was forgotten. Nothing fell apart. Nothing became an emergency. Which means the better you are at invisible labor, the less visible your effort can appear. The same is true in relationships. Sometimes one partner becomes the default manager, the one who notices, plans, remembers, coordinates, follows up. And over time, that role can become so normal that neither person fully sees it anymore. That's the strange thing about invisible labor. The more reliable you are, the more your work disappears. People begin to experience the outcome as if it simply happens on its own. The fridge is stocked. The appointments are scheduled. The child has clothes that fit. The household keeps moving. And because everything appears functional, it can seem like there isn't much effort involved. But there is a tremendous amount. And when that effort goes unseen, resentment can build. Not because the work itself is meaningless, but because human beings want to feel recognized. We want someone to say, "I see what you're carrying. I understand how much thought this takes. Thank you." And that acknowledgement matters more than many people realize. Because being unseen is one of the most exhausting experiences a person can have. It creates the feeling that your contribution is expected but not valued, that your energy is consumed but not witnessed. And I think this reaches beyond households. Entire societies are built on invisible labor, caregiving, teaching, emotional support, administrative work, the countless small acts that prevent chaos. Historically, much of this work has been treated as an obligation rather than recognized as labor. The assumption is that if something is done out of love, it should not feel like work. But love and labor are not opposites. In fact, some of the most loving acts in human life are also some of the most demanding. Much of what makes life livable is maintained by people doing work that rarely receives attention. And perhaps that is part of maturity. Learning to see what was always there: the stocked shelves, the clean clothes, the remembered details, the emotional steadiness someone else is providing, the quiet work that makes everything else possible. There is something deeply human about wanting our efforts to be witnessed. Not because we need applause, but because acknowledgement tells us that our existence matters, that our energy has been received, that our contribution has meaning. And maybe that is one of the hidden truths of adulthood. Life is sustained less by dramatic gestures and more by thousands of small acts of care. Because once you begin to see invisible labor, gratitude becomes more natural, and relationships become more balanced. Not because every task is divided perfectly, but because what was hidden becomes visible, and visibility changes things. When work is named, it can be shared. When effort is acknowledged, it feels lighter. When contribution is recognized, people feel less alone. So today, if you are carrying invisible labor, whether at home, at work, or in your relationships, your work is real. Even if no one notices every detail, even if much of it happens inside your mind, and if someone in your life quietly keeps things from falling apart, it may be worth pausing to say what is often left unsaid: "I see what you do. Thank you." Because some of the most important work in the world is the work that is hardest to see.